All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Open Mainframe Education Project City User Group for today. I am Devontae Hawkins, and I'm joined by my co-host, Taylor.
Hey everyone.
And today's special guest, we have Anna. So Anna McKee is a technical enablement specialist in the IBMZ ISV Center, primarily focusing on managing, supporting all of our DB2 for ZOS subsystems. So Anna, go ahead. Welcome to this session, and please introduce yourself, and we get started here.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thanks for having me. As I said, I'm Anna McKee. I am a technical enablement specialist for IBM. I've been with IBM for about 5.5 years now, and I work for the IBM Z ISV Center, and we support independent software vendors develop their products through a development and test environment. So what I essentially do is I manage all of the DB2 for ZOS subsystems in the ISV center, and that consists of installing and configuring DB2 for ZOS, applying maintenance to all of our versions of DB2 that we offer, setting up DB2 data sharing, and then overall just Q&A support for my ISVs.
All right, awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and get started into the questions
Quick
and
question, Anna, before we jump in, could you
Sure.
define what an ISV is for the audience? I think
oh yeah,
that might be
Yeah.
something that's good to know.
Yes. Yeah. So, an ISV is an independent software vendor. They develop third-party products for the platform. So think of companies like Broadcom, BMC, PKware. They all develop products that live on the mainframe, and their clients can use those products to help them, with their work. So what we essentially do is, give them an environment so that they can do some development and test on their products to make sure that they can support their clients day one, or if they don't necessarily have a mainframe, then they can use our mainframes to do development and test. So yeah.
all right, awesome. So, before we kick off with the questions, as always, if any audience members has any questions for Anna, feel free to put it in the Q&A section, and we will be sure that that it does get answered. But Anna, just kicking these off here, since you've introduced yourself, can you talk about your past experience, or as I like to put it, what's your mainframe origin story, right? How did you get into this space, and kind of talk about what led you into your career now?
Oh gosh. Okay, so my mainframe origin story. So I went to the University of North Texas, and that college actually has some mainframe curriculum in its degree program, specifically the Business Computer Information Systems degree program. So I ended up taking a couple courses within that program that was related to the mainframe, and that's how I kind of got my introduction to it. And one of the first classes, mainframe classes that I took, one of the requirements was to participate in Master the Mainframe, which has since been rebranded to the Z Explorer platform. And whenever I was doing Master the Mainframe, it was a contest. So it was three parts. They had various challenges within the parts of Master the Mainframe. And so I actually had to participate in that to get a grade for my course. So that's kind of my introduction to the mainframe. And I originally participated in Master the Mainframe my whenever I was supposed to do it for a grade, and I did terribly. And one of my I guess one of the other students in the University of North Texas ended up winning Master the Mainframe. And I was like, hey, I can do that too if I just put some effort into it. And so the next year when they were doing their next contest, I put all of my work aside and I participated in Master the Mainframe. And I found out maybe a few months later that I actually ended up being a winner for the North America region. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I love this contest. This platform is really interesting. But I keep hearing things like, hey, the mainframe's dead, it's dying. And at the time I was like, why would I invest myself in a platform that's just going to go away and it's not going to last me, my whole career? So I, come to my senior year of college. I already had accepted a job not in the mainframe realm. And I kept having like this nagging feeling in the back of my head, like, I seem to have an aptitude towards this mainframe technology, but I've already accepted a job outside of the mainframe, but maybe I should kind of reconsider. So, to give me some clarity, I ended up participating in the Master of the Mainframe competition again my senior year, and I ended up winning that competition as well. So, I had to do really some deep thinking of, okay, what do I want to do when I graduate college? And so I ended up just thinking like, okay, well, I can go into the mainframe industry for like a year or two, and if it's not working out, my skills are transferable and I can go anywhere else that I want. And so I kind of put all my eggs in this one basket, went into the mainframe, got hired on by IBM, and um, it wasn't until I got to IBM and started working there for several months that I started to realize, hey, this mainframe thing is actually like a really big deal. And it wasn't one experience in particular that kind of led me to thinking that like mainframe is like such a powerhouse. It was like multiple experiences that I had within that first year working at IBM where I was like, wow, this is really powerful and it's running the world's economy. And maybe I should consider staying here for a while. And yeah, now I'm here 5 years later, working for the same team, learning as much as I possibly can. And I definitely don't think that the mainframe is dying or dead or whatever that is. So
All right, awesome. I definitely love asking that question and just hearing everyone's different exposure into mainframes, right? But
yeah.
but kind of backing up just a little bit, what really got you interested in the technical space in this field?
So when I graduated from high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do in college. I didn't know what degree plan I wanted to go into. So I went to a junior college just to kind of test out, different courses that might pique my interest. I tried biology because I thought, nursing was something that I wanted to do. I tried different science courses. So I'm like, this is kind of interesting, like being like a radiologist or something like that because the science field really, really piqued my interest. But I also did music in high school. And I was like, well, maybe I should go into music because that was something that I really, really enjoyed. But it was one of those things where I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do after high school, and I couldn't really pinpoint anything that really piqued my interest. It wasn't until my mom told me, like, hey, maybe you should consider taking like a coding course. And I'm like, there was a C++ course that they were offering at my junior college. And I'm like, you know what? What could it hurt, right? So I enrolled for it and I started going through the course. And it was something that was like, this is kind of fun. It's like a puzzle, And so it was one of those things where it's like that was the first course that kind of piqued my interest into technology, even though I didn't really have much desire to go into technology. So it was one of those things where it's like, well, that was the first course that, I was actually interested in. So why not just see where this will take me, right? And so I kind of, invested myself into this whole technology thing. And I ended up transferring over to the University of North Texas to pursue a degree in information systems. So it was just one of those things where like I just had no idea what I wanted to do, but I found something that, kind of ended up being interesting to me. And I put my eggs all in one basket and just went for it.
Nice, nice. I love it. And it's stuff and I feel like that's something that a lot of students can relate to, right? Because really graduated from high school, going to college, and during that time in high school, you kind of have the room to explore and try different things, and then it's like when you get to college, there's still so much stuff that you probably didn't
Mhm.
know about that field that you want to go into, but it's like it does pique my interest, so I definitely want to pursue it more. So I think that that's something that a lot of people can relate to. And what really convinced you that that the mainframe field was the field to stay in, right? I mean, you mentioned that you didn't master the mainframe the first time, and you didn't do well on it, so you decided to do it again. And it's like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to this thing, even though I wasn't really sure about it. So, what really persuades you to stay in this field, right?
I think it's the variety that it has because you could, when you think of a mainframe, especially whenever I was in college, whenever I thought of a mainframe, I thought of like COBOL and PL1 and like some of those more dated technologies. But I think whenever I started to learn more about the mainframe, it was one of those things where it's like, wow, there's actually some cutting edge technology that you can do on this platform. And it's one of those things where it's like, if there's one thing of the mainframe that doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily like to do, then there's like a million other things that you can pursue. So I ended up doing like an assembler course in college on the mainframe. And I was like, you know what? This isn't really for me. But I was also doing like a relational database course where we leverage DB2 for ZOS. And I'm like, I kind of like this data thing that I'm doing over here though. So assembler, not so great for me personally, but like DB2 for ZOS was something that was like, hey, this is really fascinating. So I think just having the ability to just like change up what you're doing, like, because there's just so many technologies that are on this platform. It's such a diverse platform with what you can do. And whenever I was first, when I first hired on to IBM, it was like, okay, well, I'll give it a try for a year or two. And then those skills that I learn are transferable skills. So if I just really don't like it, then I can leave. But obviously, I never left. So there's there's something about it
Two
that makes me
quick
keep coming back.
things for you, Anna. Well, first off, I too, when I was going through Z Explore, I got through the first section and then I hit the assembler section, and the second one I was just like, like I don't know what the heck's going on anymore. And I
Yeah.
was just like, whoa. So I get that. And the second one, we have a question in the chat. Cody Holiday asks, are there avenues for shifting into mainframe development once you're in your late 20s?
I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, all the coding courses that you've learned already are transferable over to the mainframe. And if haven't had much experience with coding courses, there are plenty of courses up Udemy. I think InnerSkill might have some stuff, Coursera. All of those skills, all those basic technology skills that you are learning or have learned are easily transferable over to the mainframe. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you're right. It is easily transferable because really the mainframe really does interact with a lot of current and emerging technologies. You have, hybrid cloud on running on the mainframe, AI, and
Mhm.
lots of new technologies. So it's easily transferable. And um going to the next question. So how did you apply what you learned in university and during master mainframe? Um, Within that first year joining IBM, right? And you said that you took a relational database course working with DB2, and that really kind of sparked the interest. So what was it like going from university student to now a full-time career opportunity working with DB2?
Yeah, well, I can definitely say that it's like drinking from a fire hose when you first get hired on to any sort of company doing mainframe work. But I think with my courses and participating in Master the Mainframe, it really gave me like those foundational skills, like how to navigate, how TN3270 works. How do you navigate ISPF? How do I get to STSF? Just it gave me those basic skills. So even though I didn't know a whole lot, being able to navigate the system really helped me propel faster in my role when I first hired on. So I remember like my third week on the job, they we got a request to set up DB2 data sharing. And I probably should preface this. When I first got hired on to IBM, about my second week on the job, the two people that I was supposed to be learning from both announced their retirement at the end of the year. So I hired on in July of 2019, and then they were going to be gone by the end of 2019. So I had like 6 months to learn from them. And on top of that, they were both working part-time. So it was even less time with them than I had imagined. So they were trying to essentially teach me as much as they could. So my third week on the job, we had a request to set up DB2 data sharing. And they're like, okay, Anna, you're going to drive and we're going to tell you what to do. So being able to navigate the system, it wasn't this painful process of like, okay, well, now you got to back out F3. No, you need to type this instead. Like being able to have those basic fundamental skills to navigate the system really helped us, be able to do data sharing faster. But also, I didn't have to worry about learning those basic foundational skills since I already had them. I could focus on what am I doing right now on the system that is setting up this DB2 data sharing. So I think with learning those basic skills, it just really, really helped, day one when I first got into the job, be able to work faster.
Awesome. And yeah, so we do have a couple more questions in the chat. This is really great, guys. Keep coming with questions. So Cody responded, he said, "Thank you for answering my previous question." He's looking for at development positions, but they often require years and years of mainframe experience. Are there any good resources for introductory roles?
Yeah, so like I said, Z Explorer is a great platform to get, basic experience in the mainframe industry. There are also courses, I'm not sure if these are free or paid courses, but Interskill also has a bunch of courses where they kind of get into, the industry of mainframe. Um, I'm sure there are other people on this call that have many other answers other than mine. So maybe Taylor and Devonte have some recommendations here too that they could tell you.
Taylor, do you have any?
So good resources to look into introductory roles. One of the big things about the mainframe community is it's a small but tight community.
Mhm.
I would highly recommend as a starting point going to the Z Enthusiast Discord chat, just introducing yourself and kind of telling them what you're trying to do. There's a lot of really senior people in those chats, and they'll be able to kind of help guide you, and they're very open to these types of discussions. The other thing, Share 2025 is a great opportunity to build your network up and kind of explore who's looking for what in the mainframe specific world. I think it's a great place to network. And what you'll find and what I've seen is within the mainframe world, there's not a whole bunch of postings online per se, but a lot of people, once you meet other people in mainframe, they'll be like, hey, I have an opening, and they'll get to know you and they're like, all right, cool, go apply. It's technically 5 years of experience, but I like you. Come on, we'll train you up. It's a very much a small environment, and networking is going to be your best friend looking for a job.
Oh yeah. And just to add to that, I would say definitely earn your Z Explorer badges, the concepts, and if you want to do more advanced stuff, you can also earn the advanced badge. There's the Mainframe Skills Depot that's also has lots of great resources, but I would say the first things first is to definitely get spec'd up and definitely put yourself out there. Use LinkedIn, use things like the Systems Z Enthusiast Discord channels, and that way you can let people know like, hey, I'm interested in introductory roles and mainframes. I need help in this area. Can anyone help me? And I'm pretty sure that there's someone out there that has been in your same shoes before and is like, you know what? I want to help this person out. I want to be a mentor to them. So I think that you really just have to put yourself out there, and definitely people will be willing to help. And then also, there are a lot of different communities within this space as well, right? There's an A to Z community where you can find a lot of useful resources such as sessions that teach you about the basics of ZOS, or like how to get started with DB2 for ZOS, and lots of other new to Z topics. So I would say that that's also a good place to just learn more about introductory roles, I would say. And let's see. Yeah,
Yeah, and there's actually a comment saying to take a look into the IBM Z101 learning path on the IBM Skills Depot. I personally don't have much experience with that platform, but I've heard some really great things about it. And then IBM has recently started this initiative maybe like last year where there are new to Z groups that actually meet in person. So I think there's several groups out there across the country. And we actually just had the first new to Z gathering a couple weeks ago in Dallas, because that's where I'm based. And so with that, I can tell you for sure with that one, we'll be meeting, probably quarterly. And this is where, people who've been in the industry a long time, people are very new to the platform, people who just have an interest in IBMZ are all able to come to this user group and share their knowledge. And it's also a great networking opportunity. So if there's any job openings, or any job openings that are available, there's usually someone talking about it. So I definitely agree with Taylor and Devontae when they say, networking is such a big deal in the IBMZ community. And I have not met like a mean person at all in the Zine community. Like everyone is so welcoming and so open. And I think that's one of the things where like that really helps propel me into the mainframe industry, because I was able to meet the Z community before I joined with IBM, and I'm like, this is a very warm and welcoming group and everyone wants to see everyone succeed. And it was definitely something that, really made me seriously consider joining, the mainframe industry.
yeah, yeah. So I would say, definitely put yourself out there, and everyone, is willing to help no matter what. So now it says outside of educational platforms, you explore inner skill and skills build are all amazing, by the way. But what other avenues would you recommend to aspiring mainframe talent? Maybe an event, conference, or community? And I'm actually good that you put that question there, because that's kind of like what we've been talking about, right? So Anna, you can go ahead and start us off if you have anything particular that you'd like to share on that one.
Oh yeah, I mean the events and the conferences are amazing. I just talked about the New to Z community that we had in the Dallas area, but I know there's multiple groups across the nation that are amazing way to get connected to the community and learn more about the platform. But there's also conferences such as Share, there's iDoug for DB2 for ZOS specific knowledge, there's GSC UK, that's more in the European area, um, where you are learning a ton. You go to all these sessions to learn as much as you possibly can, but it's also a great networking opportunity. You get to not meet people not only in your company, but outside of your company, and you get to interact with everyone and see what they're up to. I love being able to talk to other people who are newer to the platform to see like, hey, I'm doing this. What are you doing? And how are you learning this? And what resources are you using? So all of those conferences and events and even virtual user groups are a great way to learn more about the platform and get connected within the community.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And Miriam asks, when you're starting a career in mainframes, are we supposed to contribute in mainframe projects or anything related to stand out in a crowd uniquely?
I mean, I think as long just I think what you're asking is how do you make yourself stand out? I think it's one of those things when you first join the mainframe. I think it's being a sponge and using that knowledge to, I guess, put you further into that skill. So with the mainframe industry, it's one of those things where it does feel like you're drinking from a fire hose when you first start. But honestly, being a sponge and being curious and having that perseverance to learn more is what's going to make you stand out. By, learning something and just not quitting on it. and you are gaining skills that are vital to you and your knowledge. And it's one of those things where like that will definitely set you apart from other people from like a soft skill perspective if you are just really hungry on learning more.
Yeah, yeah, I think that you definitely have to have a growth mindset, right? Like you can't just learn something about mainframe once and never learn anything else again, right? It's a continuous evolving platform, which means that things are added every day on the platform, right? So you have to be able to, well, you have to be willing to learn new things and being able to put that theoretical knowledge that you learned in that training on that course into practical use. So you really do have to have a growth mindset, as I would say in that. And Pi says, is there
Oh, just one thing to add to that quick, Devonte. I think the other thing that a lot of people notice really quick is passion. So
Mm,
if you look at Devonte and Anna, and you look at kind of where they're at, it started with kind of a passion for learning and a passion for the mainframe. Like Anna said, this is a great system, and she learned more and more about it and became more and more passionate. Passion is something that I think will set you aside because it says that I'm really interested in not only further educating myself, but also for continuing my growth on the mainframe that you're specifically interested in. So it's not just about the knowledge, it's about the passion to stick with this specific platform, to develop with it and learn and grow with the mainframe specifically. And if you can find a way to show that passion, whether it's contributing to projects or just learning more about the mainframe, it's already going to set you aside. By people notice passion. And it comes across very positively in interviews too. So
yeah, yeah, that's awesome, Taylor. People notice passion. We should get that put on a t-shirt. But I ask, is it any possible way for us to share the Discord channel? We will try to see if we can get this information out
it,
to the channel so we
I
can.
think I wrote it down right there. If you search up System Z enthusiasts, just Discord, you should be able to join. It's not some sort of secret, society. It's out there. If you have any issues joining, message me and I'll help you out. But it's a really great community. Strongly recommend you go to the introductions tab, introduce yourself, tell them about what you're looking to do with the mainframe, and again, just show some passion and it will take you far.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. And since since we're on the topic of skills, Anna, when it how did it come to building your mainframe skills, right? Given that you've been in this role at IBM for 5 years now, obviously, you've learned new things along your journey, right? So how did you stay on top of adding new skills on what you already knew?
yeah, so learning new skills, I feel like that's been kind of the main topic when it comes to people that are new to this platform, because whenever I go to conferences or whenever I talk to people who are newer to this industry, they're like, where am I supposed to learn new skills? Because it's one of those things where it's like, well, we have the red books and the IBM docs, and those are great, but it's one of those things where if reading something and not actually doing something, it just, for me, that doesn't really help. I have to actually do something in order for me to learn it. I just can't read about it. So, some things that I've been really lucky to have is I have a test system where I can do essentially whatever I want to it. I can install all of the products, or I should say IBM products that I want to it. And I've been able to learn a lot just by getting hands-on experience. Another avenue of me learning more was the inner skill learning courses, because it's kind of an interactive thing with some of the courses, especially the like managing DB2 stuff where it's like, hey, type in this command and this is going to do, something to your subsystem. And then leveraging the vast amount of knowledge that was in my team. Um, Whenever I wasn't getting something or I read something and it was just like, this is not making any sense, I would go to one of my team members and they would able to like break down the scenario in a more like digestible manner for me to understand. So, and that's been, especially with a lot of the tougher topics, I've been able to leverage more of my teammates and their knowledge because I mean, they have so much knowledge in this industry. They've got like 30, 40 years plus knowledge, right? So something so simple to them is like something that's like really hard for me to understand. So being able to leverage their knowledge has been a huge, huge help. And then one other thing is that there are, with some of the introductory IBM docs, there are like samples that you can do. So I know for specifically the introductory to DB2 document that is on IBM Docs, um there's like scenarios that you can walk through on your test system where it's like this is how you unload a table, this is how you load a table, or going through the IVPs, the installation verification programs, where you're creating all of these databases, table spaces, tables. And I know I'm specifically talking about DB2 for ZOS, but doing some of those like interactive scenarios has been really helpful too.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah. As someone just now getting started into the DB2 journey, this has been really helpful for me in terms of getting started. And I'm now gonna pass it over to Taylor.
Alright. So kind of on the topic of community, I know this is actually kind of a very important topic for you, Anna, because a lot of the community that you came into is kind of changing right now, and it helped you a lot on your path of learning DB2 specifically. So what is your experience kind of with the idea of the IBM mainframe, or I guess for you it was the IBM community, but it sounds like it helped you out a lot on on your journey for learning DB2, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They were vital to my knowledge that I have now. Because whenever I first joined, whenever I was learning from those two individuals who were about to retire at the end of the year, we would meet every single day and we would go over any questions that I had, and then we'd work on, the new thing that I had to learn for the team. So being able to get hands-on engagement from them was really vital to learning more about the platform and the technology that I was working with.
So that's kind of what brought you into the idea of the mainframe community, right? Is just like I need help there, and just to kind of go back, I don't recall if we already covered it. When you came on, you didn't have a whole bunch of time to learn DB2, right?
That is true. I did not, I mean, I had like 5 months, right, to learn from
Yeah.
these two. So being able to leverage those who've been in industry, and this is where networking was a big part in making me successful because I'm like, don't if I don't network, if I don't network with other people on this technology and the two individuals retire, like what am I going to do? And so I kind of use that time to get contacts in the DB2 development lab so that like if I were to ever run into a problem, I can go to them with a question and they'd be able to help me. So it was one of those things where it's like I felt like it was one of those necessary things for me in order for me to be successful and for me to serve my independent software vendors. Because I don't know where I would be if I didn't network with people. I should say that.
So eventually people are going to reach out to you for DBT too, like the whole community already is, right? How does that feel to be kind of considered the DB2 probe, so to speak, in the community?
I would, I appreciate the compliment.
Okay.
But I mean, I feel lucky to be able to help people grow their journey in DB2 because I know how overwhelming it could be when you first start out because you just don't know where to start, you don't know where to go. So being able to provide people with some assistance and kind of giving them a roadmap on where to start with their knowledge has been I guess it just makes me feel really good because whenever I first started, it was one of those things where it's like, I don't know, what am I supposed to be looking at? Where do I go? What am I supposed to be doing? I just didn't know what was out there and I didn't know what to do. So being able to like talk to someone about it that has like firsthand experience with that. Like, I think that, it's almost like my duty to help others kind of progress their career as well, because I know what they feel like, and I'm trying to not, have them in the same position that I was 5 years ago. So I feel like it's our duty to kind of help these people, pull them along to, for them to gain skills within this industry.
So it's kind of an interesting point. From like a more broader perspective in the mainframe community, could you describe kind of this idea of transitioning from the older generation of system programmers and application developers to the newer generation taking it over, and kind of what you feel like your part of it is in this community and how others can kind of replicate that? Because you had to go through this basically yourself, and I know it sounds like you had to document things that, were never really ever typed out, and you had to kind of absorb all this knowledge really quickly. So like for other people in that position, what would you recommend them doing when they're kind of the bridge, so to speak?
I mean, what would I recommend people when they're the bridge? That's a tough question. Um, I mean, I think just being open-minded and like being willing to help others, because when you start to get somewhat okay at let's just say somewhat good at your job, you have a million things that you're working on. But then when someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I really need some help with this, it's easy to say just like, oh, I'm super busy, leave me alone. I'm going to continue to do my stuff. But it's one of those things where it's like, you have to essentially be willing to help. And like, even though you have a million things going on right now, it's still our responsibility to help them grow their career, because they could end up helping you at a later point in time. They can take some of those tasks off your workload. So I think just being open-minded with helping someone and not getting into that hole of where like I'm too busy to help someone grow their career, I'm just going to focus on myself. It's more of a, okay, let's do what's right and pull them along too.
And typically within the community as a whole, the people who are kind of, the seniors or the people who are doing the bridging between the new and the old, would you say they're pretty open to these discussions and they kind of understand the importance of, bringing
Oh
people?
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I've never met someone that has not been interested in helping in the Z community. Everyone is willing to put aside time to help you grow. And it's one of those things where it's like I feel bad. Sometimes I feel bad for reaching out because I know how busy that person can be, but when you start talking to them, they're like, oh no, let me help you. Like, because this is going to help us in the future, and this will help you grow in your career, and you're going to be able to take over my job in the future. And so it's only the best thing to do for everyone, right?
Yeah. So since networking is an important part of people kind of getting into the mainframe world, or it's one kind of avenue, and reaching out to these people is important, some people might find that a bit daunting. Some people might be scared, oh, they won't respond or they won't have time. Is there any words of encouragement you'd like to share to the people on the that are going to be viewing this video or participating right now on reaching out and expectations or do's and don'ts of reaching out to somebody in the mainframe community?
I mean, I would say if you are planning on do it, if you're planning on reaching out on someone, the worst that they can say is, hey, I don't have time right now, or no, or whatever. And then you just move on to the next person. So I really don't think that you should feel bad about reaching out to someone, because the worst thing that they can just say is, and they're probably going to be nice about it. They're not going to be mean, like go away, but they're going to be nice and say, like, hey, I just don't have the time right now, but I might have this person who you can talk to. Or hey, I just don't have the time right now, or you can find someone that has the same skill set as they do, and someone, and that person might be more willing to help you. So I would say if you're going to reach out to someone, do it. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to hurt anyone. Um, yeah, that's all I have for that one.
So a few questions for you that are popping up in the chat. Thanks for asking questions, by the way. I love it, guys. Um, uh, we have a question on, would the IBM Z 101 learning path on the IBM Skill Depot be a great platform for me to study COBOL?
As I said earlier, I don't know much about the IBM Skills Depot or the IBM Z 101 learning path, so I'm not sure if they have COBOL, but there might be someone on this call that knows if they have COBOL or not. But there's also the Open Mainframe project. They have their COBOL courses. Um, and I, once again, don't know much about that in particular, but I know for a fact there's all these COBOL courses that are out on the Open Mainframe project that I think people can access for free. Is that right,
Um,
Taylor Devontae? Do you know?
Yes, so
Okay.
OMP does have the COBOL programming course, and we can definitely get the link sent out so you guys can go and check that out. It is COBOL programming with Visual Studio Code, so it's more the modern COBOL programming course, but that's super helpful. So I would say go there first, right? With the Mainframe Skills Depot, there are COBOL courses here and there, but for more intermediate type learning, I would say InterSkill would be another good option. I've actually done the COBOL programming courses on InterSkill and they're pretty good. So, but yeah, I would say that those two are probably good place to start. And then also there is the Explorer as well. So.
Mhm.
All right. So next question. This is a really interesting question, and I'm glad you asked it, Bruno. He says, "Hello, I have the same issue implementing new tools like VS Code, Zoe in my company, and as people work since have been working with the 3270 emulator, they don't want to move to the new development platform. And I think it's just asking like, how do you engage people to show them there's this great new tool like VS Code and Zoe that you can use when people have been using the 3270 emulator?" Um, it's a really fun question, actually, and there's a lot of different ways you could go about it. But they're all going to be a lot more, interpersonal with, you know, trying to figure out what's the business objectives. But I would love to hear Anna's input on this. I know you're a DB too, but I'm sure you've had your fair like an experience or so of like, hey, there's this new technology. How can I convince other people to implement it? Have you had an experience like that before, Anna?
I don't think I personally have. My team members have been pretty open-minded to newer
Mhm.
technologies and leveraging those technologies. So I've never personally experienced something like this before, but I think it goes back to what Taylor says, having a business justification for it, but then also, doing like a walkthrough of what that tool looks like and how you can interact with it. Um, and showing them, this is, very similar to navigating in 3270, but it's just a newer GUI. It's the same stuff that you're doing, but it's just a newer technology that's out there that, or I said, might attract newer talent instead of just like using the 3270.
So to Anna's point on the newer talent, I think it's really important that from a very high level, for your system programmers, you could have a discussion about like you've spent your whole life building all these applications and maintaining this mainframe. This is your legacy. How do we take this legacy and pass it on to the new generation? And then, that's when I think, when you get their interest in like, yeah, I want my life's work or, a good portion of my passion in my life to be passed on to the next generation. And that's when you can be like, VS Code is going to be the way that we get more people back onto the mainframe to take over your legacy. At a very high level, I think that's a good conversation because most of the time, the people who are working on this are just as passionate as you are and they want their work to continue on. So that's kind of the first thing I think would be having a discussion of like how can you move this to the next generation. But beyond that, there's a lot of really amazing tools that VS Code brings. But I think if you wanted to reach out to anybody on the panel, we'd be happy to have a discussion on this. I think we each bring different perspectives on what modernization looks like. But it's a really great question. Thank you for answering or asking it. Um, Marcelo says, even if I am an expert in another programming language, will COBOL help me or add a new perspective for future positions if I suffer a layoff, for example?
I mean, yeah, I think it would, I think adding any kind of tool to your toolbox helps, and adding more technologies that you know to your resume is always a benefit, right? There's a lot of COBOL in this world, and I would say there aren't that many COBOL developers. So there's a real need for people who know that skill. So having that on your resume, I think would only help.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. You know, you can never have a shortage of knowledge in programming languages, and then also it kind of adds value to you, right? If you have it as a skill set compared to someone who doesn't, but you also have other languages on your belt, such as Java or Python, it just makes you even more valuable to that company. So I would say that, you know, even if you aren't using it every day in your life, it's still good to learn just to have as a skill. So that way, if the time came up for you to use it, you have it, right? So,
And then the last question is, um, as you have a training course for COBOL, do you have the same with Git? Um, Devontae, do we have any training course? I think the Zoe extension uses some Git, so I'm imagining that the Z Explorer would cover some training
um,
on use. No?
not to my knowledge, I haven't seen a course on Git. I do know that there are other resources outside of mainframes that can teach you Git. With Zexplorer and Zoe, you don't really need to push or pull anything from a Git repository. It's all done through Zoe and VS Code. So I don't think that within mainframes there are any courses on Git, but outside, there are a lot of resources that you can use to learn Git.
Yeah, and there are some tools that do that, but this is a neutral vendor neutral meeting, so I will not be discussing any of those. But if you do your research, you'll see some. Whether or not the training's published online, if your company has some tools, sometimes you have access to those trainings. But again, there's stuff out there. So, all right. I think that is it for the Q and the questions. So I'm gonna reel it back into the last kind of part of the growing to serve kind of section with you, Anna, and kind of bringing it back to what would you say to those who are also considering transitioning to mainframe? And earlier on, you said when you were first going through your mainframe, not internship, your first job, you said I can go into mainframe and then I can use those same skills to go into a different job or career path if I wanted to. Could you expand on, that and then also do the reverse of like, how is mainframe skills transit able to be learned while you're in a different position that doesn't have anything to do with mainframe?
Yeah, so like the technology that I primarily work with, DB2 for ZOS, it's a relational database. And with relational databases, a relational database is a relational database. So like learning about, DB2 for ZOS teaches me in general more about relational databases and how they're put together, and what you need to do to like tweak and tune a database. So like if I really wanted to get off the platform, I can take that relational database knowledge that I have and transfer it to, somewhere else, like Oracle or any other relational database that I can't think of right now. Um, but with the mainframe, there's so much opportunity that you have to learn more skills. So it's one of those things where it's like being a kid in a candy store. Um, if I get tired of learning DB2 for ZOS one day, hey, that's fine. I can go learn Python on the same platform. So it's just one of those things where it's like there's so much that it offers that it just leaving the platform doesn't really entice me. because I know for a fact that the next technology that I want to learn is more than likely going to be on the mainframe. And then same thing when if you want to transition to a mainframe, if you have technology skills such as Python, Java, C++, if you know Linux, Unix, all of that can be learned on a mainframe as well. So it's one of those things where it's like it's a vast platform where, you know, any sort of technology that you know, it's probably going to be on a mainframe. And if you just really don't like being on the mainframe for some reason, you can go find another job elsewhere. But I don't know why you would, because there's a ton of technologies on the mainframe. So
Quick follow-up question. So let's say that you already work with relational databases per se. You maybe, I don't know how applicable this is, but maybe you're familiar with like NoSQL or one of the other big, databases, and you kind of understand the fundamentals. How could you transition into DB2 kind of easily, or would there be, I mean, obviously there'd still be a learning curve, but do you have the foundation to transfer from like the normal relational databases to DB2?
oh yeah, absolutely. If you know a database, another relational database outside of DB2 for ZOS, a lot of those same skill sets and skills are going to apply to DB2 for ZOS. So you're not going to be at a deficit, a skills deficit. There are going to be some differences between each relational database, but primarily, you know, you're not going to be, you know, so behind that you're not going to be able to keep up. It's just one of those things where it's like, you know, once you know about a relational database, like that can transfer across all relational databases. And same with a lot of the technology in the mainframe.
Last question for you. Just in general, do you have any advice? I guess you could say do's and don'ts, but just in general advice for people who are new to the mainframe, or any words of encouragement you'd like to end on?
Yeah. Obviously, staying curious, having perseverance will get you far in the mainframe industry. Um, Being able to be a good listener, absorbing as much as you can is a great asset to have while being in this industry. Some other advice that I've learned along the way is um, whenever I get hung up on a problem, I want to do as much digging as possible before I go to someone for help. Because I don't want to, you know, leave any rock unturned. But I've been in multiple situations where my coworker would say, "Hey, I really wish you would have came to me sooner with this problem because it was a really simple fix and you've been working on it for several days." So being able to like know that balance is something that I'm still learning. But it's one of those things where like that's a really important skill to have, is to be able to determine, okay, when is it time to engage someone else to help me with this issue? So that's been a really, I wouldn't say it's a problem, but that's one of the things that I'm still trying to figure out myself. And then the last probably piece of advice that I have is you'll hear a lot of statements saying there's no dumb question. And there isn't, but the only dumb question that you can ask is the one that you asked like 4 or 5 times, right? So don't try not to ask the same question like 4 or 5 times when you've already got an answer like the first 3 times, right? So, but don't be afraid to ask questions. This is a really big platform. There is a lot of pieces to it. And leverage those around you who have a lot of knowledge, because more than likely they're going to want to help you propel you in your career.
Well, thank you for all your input, Anna. I really appreciate it. Um, those are all great pieces of advice, and there is no dumb question. The first 3 times is not a bad one. Um, so I think that's important to look at. Anyway, so again, appreciate your time speaking. Devontae, if we could go on to the next slide, please. All right, so what is Mainframe Open Education? Real quick, for those who don't know yet, it's just a kind of subsegment of the Open Mainframe project, where we focus on onboarding new mainframe talent, obtaining industry relevant skills, developing and learning roadmaps for mainframe job roles, creating a community through shared ownership, which is kind of what this is, and then providing free education as well as addressing mainframe educational awareness gaps. So this is an open community. We'd be more than happy to have anybody start contributing to the GitHub page. So there is a GitHub page for this that goes through all sorts of details, and it's a great way to start to contribute to the community for the areas that you have knowledge on. So I think we can go to the next slide. So this is kind of what the GitHub community goes over. So here is a couple of the chapters and some of the future topics that we can go through. But more than anything, we just want feedback for the student user group and the Mainframe Open Education. The more knowledge we get, the more input we get from you guys in the community, the more we can make sure that you guys are taking something away from this. So then I think, is that everything, Devontae? Is there another slide on? Yeah,
Yes.
so I
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah. So this slide is more on how you can help us with that, as Taylor said, by being a contributor. If you would love to contribute content and be a part of our team, reach out to myself or Taylor or anyone here on the call, and we would love to get you set up. And then also you get to earn a badge, and you get to showcase it on social media, LinkedIn, so that way people can know that you have contributed to our efforts here, and you're just helping us grow the next generation of mainframers, right? And then also this can be used as a good resource for you for getting started into your mainframe journey. So definitely contribute content, whatever helps. But then again, you can really make a difference in this community by contributing content. And before we close, we do want to highlight something that we've talked about a lot during the session, which is Share. And Share is a mainframe conference that's held 2 times every year. The next Share will be in Washington, D.C., February 23rd through the 27th. And this code gets you to the site where you can register, because Share is free for students. So any students out there, you get to attend Share for free, and it's a really great opportunity for you to network with other mainframes in the community, learn new technical content, and then also just be part of this amazing community. I would say that I've got to go to at least one Share in my lifetime, and it was a pretty fun experience. And yeah, I would say that you definitely take advantage of it. So we can definitely, if you can't get the QR code now, we will be sure to send this out some way. But Share is free for students, so we want to share that all with you all. And I think that is all we have for today. Anna, thank you again for agreeing to be our guest speaker. I can definitely say that we definitely have learned a lot from you, and we just really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, everyone, for joining. And remember that we will have a new session next month, so stay tuned. But thanks, everyone, for joining.